Something no one expected has happened. The entire international Mariological world has publicly questioned Tucho Fernandez's document, Mater Populi Fidelis, a very harsh, detailed response which risks opening a rift in the way the Church speaks of Mary. Stay until the end, because it concerns every Catholic. The 23-page response by the International Marian Association, Theological Commission, which addresses point by point the doctrinal note Mater Populi Fidelis, signed by Cardinal Victor Manuel Tucho Fernandez, has been made public. A response that does not have the tone of sterile polemic, but rather that serious, timely, and cutting, of someone who believes that what is at stake is not a linguistic detail, but rather the integral transmission of the Marian faith. The climate immediately appeared tense. On one side, the note from the dicastery for the doctrine of the faith. On the other, a Mariological community that believes it is faced with a reduction, perhaps unintentional but objective, of the figure of Mary in the history of salvation. The Commission doesn't speak in slogans, it analyzes, demonstrates, and compares. And it is precisely through this method that it arrives at its first striking observation. If indeed, as the note signed by Fernandez states, the title of co-redemptrix was always inappropriate or inopportune, then a disconcerting conclusion would follow. Popes, saints, and mystics who used that title would have acted inappropriately and imprudently. Not an opinion, but a historical doctrinal paradox that hinges entirely on the wording of the note. The problem isn't terminological, it's ecclesiological. The Commission states it bluntly. From this, a second observation emerges. The scholars of the IMA, who have been teaching Mariology for decades, do not at all find the title of co-redemptrix to be useless, as the note instead suggests. This is an elegant but firm way of saying that the dicastery's theological perception does not reflect the perception of specialists, and in a doctrinal document, this discrepancy is significant. The issue becomes more pressing when we consider what Mater Populi Fidelis omits. The Commission uses a measured but devastating expression. It is a shame that the numerous papal citations on the title of co-redemptrix are not given greater respect or presence in the text. Why, one wonders, do more than 10 pontifical uses of the title disappear from an official document of the doctrine of the faith, while a long passage from a secular interview given by the same prefect appears, a very rare occurrence. The Commission then notes an even more serious absence, Lumen Gentium, number 58, considered the most explicitly co-redemptive passage of the Second Vatican Council. Its omission, the response reads, is unusual. Less diplomatically, one might say, inexplicable. Because when one speaks of Mary's role in the redemption, one cites the Council. And when one cites the Council, one does not ignore the only number in which Mary is portrayed as a unique participant in the passion of her Son. But that's not all. The Commission corrects a statement in the dicastery's note. It's not true that some popes used the title without fully understanding its meaning. The IMZOA displays the texts. Pius V and John Paul II clearly explain the co-redemptive function of Mary, and they do so with a language defined by the response itself as immediate, Christotypical, or maximalist. It's an academic way of saying that the popes said what is now claimed never to have been said. The contradiction is evident. But the heart of the theological disagreement emerges elsewhere. Mater Populi Fidelis recognizes Mary's unique role in the redemption, but never dares to define it as redemptive. The Commission notes this, and the semantic choice is not neutral. To deny that the action is redemptive while acknowledging its uniqueness is to leave Mary in a theological limbo, necessary but never participating, close but never cooperating. This is a position that no pontiff, either before or after the Council, has ever formulated. The problem recurs when it comes to mediation. According to the Commission, the note reduces maternal mediation to intercession alone. This isn't just a theoretical restriction, it's a clear break with 4 centuries of teaching. The issue isn't whether one prefers sober or symbolic language. The problem is that, historically, the Church has never limited Marian mediation to simple intercession. Yet, Mater Populi Fidelis seems to do so without explaining why. Spiritual motherhood, then, is presented in such attenuated terms that it appears almost psychological, a role that encourages us to open our hearts to Christ. The Commission comments with cutting coldness. What is missing is the true Catholic doctrine on spiritual motherhood, which includes the conception, generation, birth and nourishment of souls. Not an emotional encouragement, therefore, but an effective participation in the dynamism of grace. This brings us to the most uncomfortable point. 12 popes in 4 centuries are systematically omitted. Here the Commission does not mince its words. It is a shame that the dicastery decides not to cite numerous higher-level papal teachings regarding Mary as mediatrix of all graces. In ecclesiastical language, defining a doctrinal choice of a dicastery as a sin is the closest thing to theological censure that can exist without explicitly declaring it. Added to this is a question that weighs like a millstone. What new elements have emerged in recent years that justify defining a title used by popes, saints, and mystics as always inappropriate? The Commission speaks openly of anti-development of doctrine. A rare expression, it doesn't denounce heresies, but rather highlights an equally serious phenomenon: the retreat of theological language compared to previous magisterium. The matter becomes even more serious when the Commission notes another deviation. Mater Populi Fidelis seems to use the emphasis on Christ's merits against the possibility of recognizing Mary's human cooperation. The IMA's response is clear. Minimizing Mary's merits undermines the very doctrine of human cooperation in the redemption. If Mary does not cooperate, then no man cooperates. This theological line leads directly to the heart of Catholicism. Yet the note from the dicastery insists on the risks of using the titles of co-redemptrix and mediatrix. The Commission, with glacial calm, replies, such risks appear more theoretical than real, and above all, it would be difficult to find a single Catholic author in the last 3 centuries who has ever maintained that the title of co-redemptrix attributes to Mary a divinity or equality with Christ. In other words, we fear a mistake that no one has ever made. And this is where the answer reaches its most acute point. If we insist on presenting the redemption as a work of Jesus alone, devoid of any real cooperation from Mary, then, the Commission states, we slide toward a theology of salvation closer to Protestantism than to the Catholic tradition. It's not an accusation, it's a diagnosis. And the effect is that of a room suddenly silent. If you feel the need to rediscover the peace, beauty, and depth of authentic faith, let Gregorian chant accompany you. Visit Fides et Traditio. You'll find voices, prayers, and sounds that bring the heart back to the silence of God. Find the link in the description. What do you think? If you liked the video, comment Amen. God bless you.